Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to your United Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 26. So last episode, if you did not catch it, we had round 2 against the New Jersey Devils, and you could tell by the fact that they won the Stanley Cup that we unfortunately lost to them, but I still think it was a pretty successful year for this team, of course, winning their first ever playoff series, and we're starting to take those steps in the right direction. I first and foremost want to apologize that this episode is actually being recorded on Friday, so if you actually have any comments that you posted on Saturday or Sunday, unfortunately I am not able to get to those. The main reason why I'm pre-recording this is because I'm actually out of town until Sunday night, and basically I don't want to be recording this on Sunday night, so I had to record it a little bit of ahead of time, but should be fine anyways, considering this is just an off-season episode, and pretty much most of the stuff in this off-season is just maintaining our roster, but obviously there's also a really important draft ahead here too, but I think we at least know kind of based on last episode what we're going to go after, so it should be an exciting offseason still, and I'm excited to see what this team's looking like going into next year as well. Like, hopefully our team gets a little bit of growth, and that helps this team go more into being like maybe a team that can make the conference finals, or even maybe make a Stanley Cup finals, but I'm still not going to put a lot of pressure on this team to perform in the playoffs yet, because obviously we're still new to it, but it would be really nice to start seeing us turn into an actual cup contender. So with that said, let's get you guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will get into the draft and offseason and see what our team is looking like for the 2036-37 season. So the first comment is from Mike the Quiet One, who says, Pau is the next Paco. Also, I agree on taking him. Looks like he would have been a top 5 pick, so very nice steal. And I don't know if Pau would be the next Paco, but he definitely would be a really good defenseman regardless. And he's likely easily going to be our selection this year because there's not really much else that is better than him. He's a low elite, as you can see, with an X factor, and he has very good overall ratings, and he's NHL ready out of the draft, so he's going to be a very nice pickup for our defensive core. And like I said in last episode, basically he'll probably replace Albertozer on the top 6 pairings next season, and then if we end up losing Dave Antonio, Dave could be getting replaced by Ryland Pau as well. So Pau is just a really great player to bring in at this point, I think. And I think he could bring in some good offense as well for our team. He's a solid two-way defenseman. He's not a full-on DFD, but at least I think he'll be a little bit more respectable defensively than somebody like Albertozer, who I think was a straight offensive defenseman. So I'm excited to draft Ryland Pau, but the rest of his draft class on paper honestly doesn't really look the best. So aside from him, I don't really know if we're going to get much else, but at least Pau is a fantastic player for us to pick up while making the playoffs as well in the exact same season. So yeah, excited to see how good of an overall he actually is. Next comment is from Nick Buckerbarons. He says, disappointing result. Pau is a no-brainer. And yeah, I agree that Pau is a no-brainer. I don't think it was a full-on disappointing result in the playoffs because I didn't really expect this team to be ready enough to necessarily go on and win a Stanley Cup this season. But it was kind of sad, obviously, to see us lose to the Devils. But since the Devils went to the Cup Finals last year, we kind of felt like they were the type of team that could definitely beat a lot of other teams, even though they technically finished worse than us during the season and all that. But yeah, it definitely kind of had some disappointing results to it. But I would say in general, I'm impressed with this team in a lot of different ways. And I think that we could easily just get a lot better from here on out. And the last and final comment is from Cookie Block 37, who says, please don't end this franchise after winning the finals, even though I know that is your the theme of the series. And with this type of series and with all the series I actually run in franchise mode, I tend to try and go all 25 years. I know a lot of content creators like to go until they win a Stanley Cup and then they just stop. But for me, I really get attached to a lot of the players on my team, and I like to see their careers wrap up. So regardless if we win a Stanley Cup in these next few years or something like that, we are going right till the end with the series, as I typically do, just because I think it'll be a lot cooler to see like guys like Rudolph Klinger retire and see how many points he has by the end of it, that type of thing. So we will definitely be in 25 years with this, and 25 years with mostly every franchise mode I do, unless there's obviously not enough time before NHL 27 or something like drops as well at that point. So with that said, I think we are ready to get into this offseason. Like I said, Pau is easily our first round pick, but afterwards, I'm really not too sure what else there is that we're going to actually be able to snag up here, because if we go by each league again here, let's actually go by each position as well. If we go to Germany, you can see Germany only has literally 2 centers in this draft class. One's a medium top 9, one's a medium bottom 6. Nothing crazy. Left wingers, they do have a lot of left wingers, but the best one is supposed to go late first round as well. Obviously, we're prioritizing at defensemen, so Braun we won't be able to get. So we'd be able to get guys like these low top nines or bottom six forwards, which isn't bad, but obviously it's nothing super crazy. If we head to the right wing side of things in Germany, there's literally no German right wingers whatsoever. Defensively, there's obviously Pau from Austria, who is playing in Germany. There's Blugis, but he's only a low top six defenseman. And there's Dingle, who's a low seven, so not a lot of great defenders other than Pau. And then if we head to goaltenders, there is one goaltender, but he's not supposed to get drafted. If we go look at, let's just go forwards in general here. You see Switzerland barely has anything on the forward side of things. From a defensive standpoint, they don't have any defensemen supposed to get drafted, and they don't have any goalies supposed to get drafted. So it's pretty bare in a lot of the leagues that we're supposed to draft in. A lot of the players that are kind of intriguing are supposed to go in the late first round. So unfortunately for us, some of them we won't be able to grab because we're going to be going with Pau instead. But we might be going with somebody like Savon, for instance, who is 19 years old. He does have top six for potential. He's probably somebody I would take just for the potential alone. But aside from that, there's not really a lot else with great potential for this draft class that we could actually pick up. So I don't really expect us to get too much. I might take Peter Bonder, honestly, with a second rounder because he could play both sides. But yeah, there's really not a lot for us to go through, which is okay because we've had some really good luck with some other draft classes. But I just don't think there's going to be much else other than that defenseman. So hopefully we could still find some steals and players outgrow their potentials. But I think in general, this is probably going to be one of the worst draft classes we've had, other than picking Pau, of course, with our first round selection. That is if he doesn't go early, which I hopefully he is going to go right around our spot because we are technically drafting at what spot? 25th. He's supposed to go where? Was it 26th? He honestly could go earlier than our spot based on that. If we go to defenseman here, he's projected to go right at 26th around. So he might go off the board a little bit early. I really hope he doesn't. If he goes off the board early, I will be pretty disappointed. But if he doesn't, obviously he's like the perfect player, like I mentioned in last episode. So let's hope that the AI is not smart enough to take him earlier than what he's actually projected to go like. So let's hop into this draft and let's get through this offseason episode relatively quick because technically I don't really have a lot of time left to record today. I've already had to record videos for Saturday and Sunday, which you guys have already seen by now. So Supermarket Simulator and also 2K. So I've had to do a lot of recording today. My voice is not very happy, but it has to be done just because I'm literally out of town for one day, basically, going to visit my brother in Orillia, Ontario, basically. So anyways, let's take a look at this year's top 5 players in the draft. So starting off with the Dallas Stars in their first overall pick, they get Nabokov, who's an 83 overall left-wing playmaker. Looks pretty good with 2 X factors out of the gate. So yeah, this guy's going to be a pretty solid player for sure. Elite edges and wheels. Definitely a very fast player. 90 speed, 90 agility, acceleration's a 90. His endurance is an 85, but he also has 84 balance. Yeah, he's going to be really, really good. Doesn't have center as a position, but also looks like he could win some face-offs. So good little pickup there for the Dallas Stars. Detroit at 2 is going to select Grenier, who's an 81 overall two-way defenseman. I feel like Detroit in this series has literally drafted way too many defenders because if you guys remember, there was a medium elite enforcer defenseman. They drafted him. They had a lot of other good defensemen in the AHL, but now they add Grenier to their defensive core. So I still don't really know what Detroit's plan is, but I feel like every year they're drafting defenders in this series. Columbus at 3 is going to select Crane, who's an 81 overall left-wing playmaker. So there is Byron Crane. We could say a distant relative of the Crane we had on our Islanders series last year. But there he is, Byron Crane. Florida at 4 is going to select Fenton, who is a left-wing playmaker, 81 as well. So some solid overalls for a lot of these guys, which makes me think the low elite defenseman that we might be getting is going to be probably like a 79, maybe a 78 at the lowest, but he could be an 80 plus overall defenseman of the class as well. So I really hope we do grab him. Seattle at 5 takes another 81 overall power forward in Patrick Schrader. So that's, yeah, another really solid player. That's a really good top 5 in terms of overall rating. Like, you see sometimes 81s going first overall, but there's literally all these guys are NHL ready in the top 5 so far. So looking like it's going to be a decent class. All right, let's simulate to our pick, and let's hope that Pau is still on the board. Please do not take him, guys. Okay, they didn't take him, I don't think. unless he went extra early. But aside from that, let's see what went before selection just for fun here. Ruchinski already went. He was, I think, an option 65 overall top 6. There's Braun 66 top 6. Yeah, so yeah, those type of guys I could have taken, but I didn't really need them. A high elite goaltender went 15th overall. Wow. That might be one of the highest goalies you've seen in this series so far. Raphael Boileau. We'll see if he ends up being really good for the Calgary Flames or not. Webb was a really high overall top 6 forward. So that's kind of nice for the Sabres at 13. Bancroft was a 78 top 6. Damn, and Asham was an 80 overall defenseman. See, this class is looking really good. 80 overall there as well. Holy moly. I'm going to move my face because this looks like one of the best first rounds we've seen. All these guys are NHL ready up to that point. Except for obviously this 65 overall medium elite grinder, but that's still pretty nice. Yeah, that's a really good top 10. Like, this is like, reminds me of probably the actual 2003 draft, but obviously those players weren't that good right out of the gate, but that's still a pretty insane class. All right, let's grab ourselves Mr. Pow here. There's also Aho, but Aho is not really something I need. He's not very good either out of the class, so we're going to be going for Ryland Pow, the defenseman. Is he going to be an 80-plus overall defender is the question. I hope he's listed as a top 6 regardless, though, because it's going to be hard to get him ice time on this defensive core. Pow is an 80 overall. Oh my goodness. He might be literally listed as a top 4 already. But that is a colossal steal in this franchise. Probably the highest overall steal we've had. And 25th overall. And let's see what he looks like. He is listed as the top 6. That's actually perfect. Because like I said, if he's listed as top 4, he might complain about ice time. But he's going to literally replace Albatozer next season. Unfortunately, I love Albatozer. I love my German players. But unfortunately, we're going to have to let him go. Probably to free agency. And then Powell's going to easily take over his spot. But this is a fantastic pick by all means. And the fact that he has an X Factor too is even better. So he should help us out good with the defensive side of things. He's also got a good shot and all that. Like, he could bring some good offense as well. Like, I think he's the perfect replacement for Dave Antonio in that top 4 if Dave Antonio eventually leaves, which he might, depending on his asking price at the end of his current contract. So that's fantastic. And like I said, the rest of this draft class, honestly, is not going to be the best, I don't think. But I'm hoping that we could still find some stuff that is maybe going to help us pan out. Like, Pondra is a low top 6 if we get him. Maybe he could be a surprising top 6 type of player. But Pow is definitely the best deal we've had up to this point. All right, 58th overall now. There's a medium elite goalie that just went before spot. Damn, that's crazy. So yeah, this draft class is definitely one of the strongest. For players that we could actually draft projected around this point, literally the best player is McInnes based on ranking. So does that mean Bondra already went? I guess Bondra did already go. Because he was supposed to go 60 something, right? Yeah, he did. He went to Colorado, just in case you guys wanted an update on Peter Bondra. 63 overall. And he's a playmaker, which is unrealistic. Because real Peter Bondra was an elite sniper, kind of. So who's the best player I could take then? It was around this point. It was McInnes as a right winger. Honestly, he might end up being the pick. I don't really know if there's much else. There is also this Belgium player, which we don't have any players from Belgium, I don't think. John Keith. Right wing, left wing's kind of intriguing. 3 years out. Guaranteed medium top 9. What is the McInnes' stats looking like here? Zachariah McInnes. Only one B and a bunch of C's. Meanwhile, for Keith, who's only 17, he does have a D stat. So I would assume the other guy is probably better, to be honest. Even though I would like a player from Belgium, I got to go with who might be actually the better overall or potential. He might be only a bottom 6 forward, but it's tough to say. Let's go for Zachariah McInnes, who is a Polish player playing in Russia. Let's take him. Boom. And he's the medium top 9 as well, but he is probably a better overall than the other guy. But he is a bit older, I guess, technically, too. So, could have been an argument for taking the other guy, but this guy's got some decent shooting attributes. I feel like he could still be something decent because we've had some good second-round medium top 9s in our lineup, like Barrett and all that. So, maybe McInnes could be one of those type of guys as well. I don't mind that selection. It's nothing crazy, but we knew the rest of this draft class wasn't going to have too much potential in it for us, so there's also another medium top 9 here in Dolak, who is also 18. It does have a good shooting categories as well, which I like. Is there anything else, though? There's not really anything else supposed to go for quite a while. So I guess we're going to have to go for that top 9 as well. Yeah, this class is terrible, but in the terms of depth, but in terms of the first round, it was absolutely awesome. So let's go for the German in Rudolf Dolak, who is playing in Switzerland. Boom. 58 overall. Like I said, maybe he becomes a good AHL player. He does have okay shooting, so maybe he's something for the AHL. Maybe he becomes an NHL depth forward. Regardless, there's not really much else I could take at this point. So I'm just going to fly through this draft as fast as possible almost. Arnott's only a bottom six forward. We could maybe use a bottom six forward if he develops to a 70 plus. Crosby's also medium top 9, but he's 19 already. Does have some good attributes in shooting and passing, though. And since his last name's Crosby, it kind of makes me want to take him a bit. There is also that medium elite goaltender, which is 19 in the gym. I don't really need goalies. I really don't, because we have so many of them. But just for the potential alone, we might as well take him and see if he actually starts to develop. And if he doesn't, that's okay. But let's just give ourselves as much depth in every position, right? So let's go with Tambellini for the potential. 56 overall. I'd rather take players with good potential at this point than a guy that might have a solid overall and never pan out, right? So this is going to be one of the worst classes, like I said, but we just might as well take chances on some random people occasionally. Like, there's nothing known about him whatsoever, but is he a low elite? Is he a low HL, low 7th D? I honestly don't even know. But we're going to we should probably take Savon here, I guess. He does have that medium 6 potential, like I said, but he is 19 already. But since he's got medium 6 potential for sure, we will take him with our next selection. 54 overall. Yeah, kind of low. But it is more potential, and he might never get an entry-level contract. He might get one if he develops well within a year. We have a couple selections left here. We'll go through this quick just because this class, like I said, just nothing whatsoever. Corey's is a medium 7th offensive defenseman. I mean, he might be able to pan out at the HL level if he's got an offensive defenseman player type. There's also some other bottom 6 forwards. There's a guaranteed medium 9, but I can't take him because he's from Russia. Yeah, there's not a lot. There's not a lot. Obviously, I can't take this goaltender just because he's from Sweden, but probably wouldn't take him anyways. Yeah, I honestly don't even really know what we'd go with at this point. Like, let's sort by potential and see who is the highest one that comes up. That's somebody we could actually take. Oh, man, there's another low elite, but we can't take him because he's from Finland. Damn. Shout out to Tuomas Petterlainen. Whoever he gets him, he's going to be probably pretty good, I would assume. But, damn. If only he was from, like, a different country. I guess... do I want to go with Blue Jays yet? I would probably prefer the next round. I guess technically the best player we can draft at this position is technically either Donaghy or Calico. So let's just go for Donaghy at this point. I honestly don't even know. Low top 9. Yeah, not very good. Not very good. But this class, I honestly can't find much else other than that first rounder. That's okay, though. That's okay. Let's once again sort by potential here. That low elite did go, so somebody actually did draft him, so that's good to see at least. Because it would have been weird if he went undrafted. I guess I'll go for either a bottom 6 forward or a defenseman. Let's go for the 20-year-old defenseman in Blue Jays. I know he's not going to really be much, but let's go for him anyways. Just because he's from Croatia. 58 overall. All right. So yeah, not an outstanding draft class, but we grabbed ourselves that medium elite goaltender, which, like I said, more potential. We grabbed our top 6 forward that has some potential as well, but might not pan out. But the big player of the draft, of course, Mr. Powell, as that first rounder. I'm really excited to see how good he does in his first season. I think he could be a great defenseman. I think he can be listed as a top 4 easily within one season. So there we have it, the draft class. All right, re-sign stage. Let's see who we got to re-sign. I know there was a couple bigger names, but let's get our scouts back because they've done an amazing job so far, I feel like, finding some good players for us in these later rounds as of the last few years. So we'll get them all signed up here, so that way we won't have to deal with them for a few years again. And then hopefully, like I said, this roster... It will make it back to the playoffs again next year, I think, guaranteed. But obviously, since we have injuries on, one injury could derail our playoff chances too. So we got to be very careful. And that's why we need the depth that we do as well. So there is all the contracts dealt with for the scouts. Coaching staff, nobody's there, so we just need to bring back our players. All right, re-sign. We have 39.425. We're going to start off with our unsigned player, Powell. Obviously, he's going to get his ELC right out of the draft. He's way too good to be unsigned for longer. Polak actually got a lot of growth, but I'm not going to sign him yet. I think everybody here is going to stay unsigned, including Kuda, the low elite. I think we'll wait a little bit before we sign these guys because we don't have a lot of contract room. And then, yeah, Tambellini and Coach will stay unsigned. UFAs. Yeah, UFAs is an interesting one. Some of these guys that we drafted really aren't developing much, so we're probably going to have to let some of them go. I am going to let go of Cameron. He was a cap whale. Festerling is not really going to pan out as a low top 6. 57 at 20, we're just going to let him walk because we need to free up some space anyways. Allman, I don't think he's going to really pan out. If these guys are ever in free agency down the road and they're usable, we can sign them, though, which is nice. Barker, when did we draft Barker? 5th round. He's not really developing much either. And Hillis is a low top 6. 66 at 20 is not bad. Was a 3rd rounder. Does have a decent shot. He can probably replace somebody like Kearns, to be realistic. But are we going to need somebody like these depth kind of options? I'm going to sign Nichols for sure, because he might be NHL, he might be AHL. Emerson, it's tough to say, because we need to free up some roster space for sure. Emerson, I think, was getting playing time last year, so we'll give him another 1-year deal if he wants to come back and play in the AHL. Sazongoth, I think. Was Sazongoth scratched all last year or no? He wasn't. So he was actually playing. Kearns was definitely scratched all last year mostly, right? Yeah, he was. I'm going to let go of Kearns. We got to free up some roster space. I'm also going to let go of Sazongoth, I think, for the time being. We could bring these guys back at any point, but I need to free up roster space and contract room, so that's why I'm letting go of some of these dudes. We'll get Hill assigned to his ELC for the time being. And then we got to go to our RFAs here for a second. Lee's is not the best. I could let him go already. BX is already a 71, which is not bad at all. So we'll sign him. Pearson's only 23. We'll sign him. I'd prefer 1-year deals for most of these RFAs just so I could make sure to let them go within a year. Because I'd prefer to have our younger guys get roster contracts over these dudes, so to speak. So Sarich will give you a 1-year deal as well. Lees, you could be a depth forward in the AHL if you want. I don't know if you're going to be in the lineup fully, but we'll bring you back. Mulpey needs to come back because he was NHL depth defenseman. He wants a 1-way contract too, which is not what I was expecting. But for that price point, we might as well get him a 2-year deal at just over $1 million. There's not really a better depth defenseman out there right now on our team, so we'll sign him up. Rankin is close to being NHL ready. We'll sign him up to a 2-year, 2-way deal. He might be a 4th-line center for us next season. And in Nakamura, I kind of want to have him long-term, but he only wants 1 year. Doesn't have a lot of organizational interest. So I think for the time being, we're going to still give him another 1-year deal just because he's not got that organizational interest super high. I'll give him a 1-year deal at $3 million, or just over $3 million, just because I think I could do that for now. But I don't think I could give him a long-term deal because he just doesn't have that interest really in signing a long-term yet. So we'll do that for the time being, but eventually we'll have to give him a long-term deal. Kavapol, I forgot he's a pending RFA. Do I need to bring back Kavapol as the 3rd-string goalie again? I'd say yes. I'd say yes, because I think Simic could probably use at least 1 more year for sure. He might generate enough growth to be a backup to start next season, but I think he might be still in the AHL depending on what we do with Gotch and all that stuff too. So I think we'll sign Kavapol still for a 1-year deal. I was debating about letting him go, but I need to have a 3rd-string goalie in case of injuries. So a 1-year deal for Kavapol, and we will give him a 1-way deal too, just to make him actually accept the deal. So he could kind of be like a little bit of a cap whale. And then, like I said, Alpatozer is the one that's going to have to walk. But let's advance today, just get those contracts figured out here. Because all these guys should accept. I don't think anybody wants to reject after how good of a season we had. We still have $37 million in cap space. That's the only problem I have, though. Because letting go of Albatozer, obviously, it will make us need to still sign a cap whale, which is unfortunate, but we will have to sign a cap whale again. But I think having Powell works out really well because then we'd have 3 right-handed defensemen, 3 lefties as well. And yeah, there's not really a way I could justify having Albatozer back. I could run Powell in the AHL all next year if I really wanted, but he's ready to go already. And I think Maltby, since we just paid him as a depth defenseman, I think it only makes sense to let go of Albatozer. I hope you guys actually agree with this because I'm a little bit skeptical about doing this. I do like him, but his numbers definitely are not the same as they used to be. And he's never been a plus defenseman either, except for in the playoffs, I guess. But he's still kind of one of those guys that I really, really liked early on. He's never missed a game so far, even with the injuries turned on last season. But unfortunately for him, he's going to have to leave. He is a good player. Just never develops really that full-on offense because his passing's kind of low, his shooting's kind of low, but does have great awareness. And his potential actually changed to exact top 4, so he's listed as a top 4, so he wouldn't be getting playing time if I brought him back, even though he would probably be wanting not that much. Oh, he would actually want a 6x6, which is kind of a lot more than I expected for an 81, so I think it is a good time to send him away. So shout out to Albatozer, salute him, whatever you want to do. But best of luck to him in free agency. I guess we'll have to find out where he signs because he is our first major player, I think, we've let go of on this team. Let me actually write down his name if my pens would actually work, which they never like to work for some reason. Albatozer. Okay. I just butchered how I wrote that down, but I don't really care. So best of luck to you, Mr. Albatozer. Hopefully you find a way to win a Stanley Cup, not against us. So that's a tough one to let go of, but like I said, there's just not enough room for him on the defensive core. If I didn't draft Powell, we'd obviously be bringing him back. If Powell wasn't in this draft class, I definitely would be bringing him back. But the fact that all these guys are listed as top 4s and he'd be listed as a top 4, there's going to be somebody like Andrews complaining about ice time, probably just playing on the top 6. So we have to find a way to get people more ice time as much as possible. And also with Dave Antonio being a pending UFA, that Powell thing is very important. Albatozer, if he's a free agent next offseason and Antonio leaves, we could bring back Albatozer that way too. There's that as an answer potentially, but for the time being, we're going to have to go with that, and we will have to still sign ourselves a cap whale, which is kind of insane that we still have to sign ourselves a cap whale when we've made it to the second round, but that's just the way it works sometimes, I guess. All right, Simulate 2 free agency, and we will see what we are working with for ourselves as a random cap whale. And then I think that's all we need to do, really. We could do some off-season focuses, too, I guess, for some people. So I guess that's something we'll work on, just to get some of those younger prospects to develop in areas like face-offs and all that. But let's bring ourselves in a cap whale. We could have probably held on to the same one that was before. And oh my goodness. So Schaefer's now headed to free agency, too. So the Islanders just lost Schaefer and Purrington in back-to-back free agencies. And Purrington only spent 1 year in Florida, but now he's back in the free agent market again. That's insane. So shout out to Purrington. This guy is going to try and secure the bag. Both him and Schaefer are asking for $15 million apiece. And then this Ristolainen guy is also a free agent, but he's an RFA. All right. Let's anyways get that cap whale player dealt with. Hopefully we could find that same guy as last year because I think the other ones are going to be too tough. Maybe there's going to be another one that wants only 1 year, but we're not going to give somebody an ELC. We need a 1 year deal at like $20 million or something like that. It's so funny that we still have to do this, but I don't want to make any of our current players cap whales because we obviously will have to let go of them at some point. So let's see. Who is the first one that only wants a year? Because all these guys still want ELCs, these 59 overalls. There's got to be one guy. Oh, there's somebody that wants 2 years, and he's an exact, so he shouldn't need an ELC. Yeah, he doesn't. Dane Pyatt. Never heard of you. But we will give you $25 million to play in the AHL. So enjoy your time down there in the minors, making $25 million bucks. All right, let's do some off-season focuses on a couple people. We don't really need to do with a lot of our veteran players at this point. But a couple of people we should probably still focus on. Guys like, I feel like Nakamura could still get better at shooting. Obviously, we'll focus on Powell since he's already going into his first season. But let's continuously get some of these guys as good as possible. Let's get Nakamura even better at shooting. which he thinks he's already good at, but there's still room for improvement. So I think turning him into a good goal scorer for the top 6 could be useful. Aside from that, Powell, I don't really know what he needs to focus on. He's going into his first season. Let's get him better offensively still, too. Let's get his shooting better. He does have good shot power, but his accuracy is not really the best. So if we could turn him into a two-way defenseman that scores goals, that could be helpful. So we'll do that. Guys like Gotch and all that, I feel like they'll just normally grow. Fernandez and Rankin are both guys that could make the NHL team this season. So we should probably do a little focus on them. Fernandez definitely needs his face-offs to keep getting better, because obviously he's a center after all. He was getting quite good last year. I think he went up 5 points. And in Rankin, I don't really know if his faceoffs were that low, but since he's a centerman as well, it's probably best that these younger guys work on their faceoffs, because I feel like that's definitely always a weakness for young centermen, is actually winning faceoffs. And then once they actually start to develop, then it's really good. All right, so that's good for the NHL. Anybody in the AHL I really want to focus on in terms of growth? I feel like Simic and Ullman and stuff like that should just get some natural growth. Like, it's not really that important. So I think I'm going to leave everything else the same. All right. So that's all good and ready to go. Actually, let's do also Paco. Even though he's a veteran at this point, I still want Paco to just continuously become an insane player. So let's continuously get his offense better. Like, let's get him even better at skating if he's not better already. Oh, he says he actually needs the most improvement in skating, so that could help. He's a bit of a bigger defenseman, so if we could get his skating really good, he could be really fast too. So that's good. Let's we did need a coach, I think, for the AHL, didn't we? Because I'm pretty sure there was a retirement last episode. It was, yeah, for the AHL, an associate coach. I guess we will hire ourselves an associate coach for the AHL. We don't really need to get ourselves an AHL coach yet, but we might as well. Let's go to head coach and just find somebody that works well with the team with good teaching grades too. If there's one that has a good teaching grade, there's some A minuses here. 54, 62, and 50. We'll go for the 62 as the associate. Gordy Bermanis, what a name. We'll sign him up, and then he could help out with the AHL down there. Because our AHL team is definitely getting more growth as of late, I feel like, since we've hired some better coaches. So that's all good and ready to go. I don't think there's anything else we need to do before we sim up to next season. So we'll just do that. And we will find out in this episode, if I remember, where Albatozer signs. And then maybe we'll also look at where Purrington signs as well, if we want to remember him too. And that type of thing. Let me just write down Purrington again. And then obviously not Albatozer. Yeah, I think that's the only ones I really care about where they sign. Because Purrington is a player that I still kind of wish we had, but I feel like our team's benefited from not having a defenseman making $15 million, right? So, at least, well, Paco's going to probably want $15 million once his contract ends for sure, but let's see what we got in terms of our lineup. And let's make our send-downs and our call-ups. See who should actually still be in the minors for another year. All right, so goaltending, we need 3 goalies, so it's going to be Forster and Gotch. Gotch is listed fully as a backup. Simic is not ready to be an NHL goalie yet, so that's why I signed Kvapil for 1 more year. So Simic will still run the AHL as a 77 with Cantor as a scratch and Ambul as the backup. And then we'll have our 3-headed goaltenders, Forster, Gotch, and Kvapil. That's not bad. I don't mind that whatsoever. From a defensive standpoint, Paco, Antonio, Lee Urquhart, Andrews, and Pau, and then Maltby is the 7th D. Perfect. Exactly what we want. Ullman's not ready yet, but he might be ready next season. He's getting kind of close. Richardson's also getting decently close, but he's probably another year or 2 out. And then Rakunik hasn't really grown at all as a low 4, but he's only 20. I feel like he's been down there for quite a while at this point, but AHL defensive score looks okay. From a forward perspective, we got Hromis, McElhaney, Nakamura, and Bradford. Bradford's listed as a 3rd-line scoring forward. Nakamura is a 2nd-line scorer. So I might have to move Law to the 3rd line this season full-time. And then Helmer was a depth forward us last season. Do we still need a depth forward? We don't. So we'll keep him down there for the time being. I just don't want any good players scratched. Nichols is okay probably to be a scratch. We have Law as the 3rd-line scoring forward. So yeah, Law's probably going to be 3rd-liner this year. Nakamura is going to be top 6. Klinga up there as well, of course. Camper's getting close to being NHL ready. And then we have Fernandez and Rankin. Fernandez is still a minor scoring forward, so I think for his growth, purposely, I'm going to send him back down. And Rankin's also listed as a third line scoring forward, or minor scoring forward. So for his growth, I'm going to send him back down as well. And Barrett's going to stay obviously in the NHL for the time being. Our center depth doesn't look super strong, really. But I think Rankin, Miller could come back up, actually. Yeah, Miller could definitely come back up. I really liked how he played in the playoffs because we would be using Mullen as a left winger. So it'd be Benak, Green, Barrett, Miller. Mullen would be playing on the left wing with Klinga, Law, and Nichols as a depth/fourth line option. Bradford obviously should be playing. We need one more depth forward up here. It's got to be between Helmer and Camper. Camper is 22 at this point. Helmer was up here last year. He's 23 already. Power forward. What is Camper again? A grinder. He does have some 3-star defense, which is not bad. Yeah, I think I'm going to bring up Camper as that depth option this year instead of Helmer, just because he's better defensively. So we'll go with that. Obviously, sucks not that Fernandez and Rankin in the NHL yet, but I think they need some time to marinate a bit more. All right, so our top 6 is going to be a little bit different. Like I said, like what we did in the playoffs, we're going to have Law as a third liner, which will give more playing time to Nakamura, which is good. Bradford gets scratched, which is not what I want. We want Mullen playing left wing, though, too, kind of, but he is a fourth liner, so we can play him on the fourth line right wing. And a Camper will have to come on out. Miller could be a depth forward still. Bradford, no, he is in the lineup. Oh, he's in the top 6. I don't even know how I got him in the top 6. That was kind of weird. Barrett goes up to here. Camper comes out. Miller comes into the fourth line. That looks good. That's the way I would have it. So Maltby being scratched and Camper being scratched. Kvapil, the third string goaltender. That's how I would have our 4 group. At least right now. Just because Law, he's not a crazy offensive player, but he's kind of still listed as that third line guy. And Nakamura's the second line guy. He should be probably up here. We could split up the top line again if we want to, just to try and get some maybe better chemistry throughout it, but I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it, so we'll probably go with this as our top 6, and that is our bottom 6. And Barrett's technically, I feel like, better than the 78, even though he's listed as a depth forward. I feel like he's good. He is only on a 1-year contract left, so he will be a free agent at the end of the year, which means maybe he leaves, maybe he's here as a depth forward. Tough to say. All right, from a defensive standpoint, what the hell is this? Why would you put Paco on your top 6 pairing? I don't know what's with that, coach, but we're going to be doing probably still Paco and Antonio. Lee would be playing with Andrew Urquhart. Yeah, Urquhart. Andrews will play with Powell. That looks nice. That looks really nice. I like that a lot. The only thing is Brad Andrews might complain about his ice time. But I don't think it's a terrible thing having him in this spot. I don't think it is. He does have a Masterton, which I completely forgot about. And then from a goaltending perspective, Forster and Gotch scratch. It's going to be Maltby, Kvapil, Camper. That looks good. Special teams. If you guys think there should be any adjustments to these special teams, let me know. And I can change them before next episode. In terms of who should be on the power play and who shouldn't be. But this is likely what we'd be running with. Unless there's any adjustments that need to be made to it. But I think I like the way this team looks still. Even without Albatozer on it. Because last year with Albatozer on that top 6, it was a -1, that top 6 pairing, but now it's an even 0. And Powell is a decent fit for that top 6. Not a great fit for the top 4, so we might have to change coaches eventually. But for right now, Rylan Powell's in a pretty good spot. I just don't expect him to do too much offensively because he's not going to have that much extra ice time being behind Lee, Antonio, and Paco right now. So, that looks good. AHL, let's just make sure nobody is scratched that shouldn't be, because it would be annoying if that is the case. And Bull needs to be in over Cantor, because Cantor's the depth goaltender for them. Lees could be scratched, that's fine. Same with Pyatt. So that's all good. Let's just make sure our top prospects are in the lineup. Fernandez's face-offs are still not great, so I will have him still as a right winger. And let's just make sure our top prospects are as high as possible, which I think they pretty much are anyways. But yeah, Rankin and Fernandez, I think they'll be back up here next year. Fernandez obviously has never played a game yet, but he's had one really solid AHL season. Didn't make the playoffs. Meanwhile, Rankin obviously played a few years ago in the NHL, but has been getting better in the AHL. and I think he's going to be very close to being that fourth line center for us. He was a first overall pick, which really sucks looking at that, but I think he could easily replace Miller. I could even replace Miller this season if you guys really want me to, but I think Miller just brings a better two-way game to that fourth line for the time being. So that's why I went with that. All right, so that's good. Let me double check the defense in the AHL as well here. Ullman and Richardson's fine. Yep, I like the looks of that. I like the looks of it. And then obviously Simic is going to be very close to making the NHL. He's probably going to be our backup next season, which means if that is the case, Gotch might be the third string goaltender, or we might have to let him walk to free agency. And then Kavapol's also on the hot seat, of course, too. So some interesting decisions coming soon. All right, so that's all dealt with. Final few things we got to do in this episode. We got to take a look at what our new guy in Powell looks like in terms of his face. We also got to take a look at, obviously, where Purrington and Albatos are signed. And then we also got to take a look at this year's draft class. All right, so first and foremost, let's take a look at where Albatos signed, because obviously, first major player I think we kind of let go of on this team. It's not like he's a major player, but he was one of the higher overall players we've had. So let's find where he went. So it's Albatozer or Albitozer? It might be Albeltozer. I have to remember how to spell it. I feel like it's like this, but it might be an L in between the L and the B. I'm not too, or the A and the B. Not too sure. Let's see. Did I spell that right? I did not. Of course not. This is why I should write down actually exactly how things are spelled. Let's see. Did I spell it right now? No, I did not. Oh my goodness. Where the hell is this spelling? It's got to be somewhat close to that, right? Albatozer. I feel like that's got to be spelled like that almost. Let's actually just get rid of this and then just search entire defenseman in the league or something. Reset filters. We'll set this to defenseman. And we'll look at top 4. Or actually, let's not even go top 4. Let's just go offensive defenseman. And we'll find him easier that way because he's one of the lower end offensive defensemen out there. So we'll find him kind of easily because he's an OFD. Where is he? And how is it spelled? Oh, it is Albelt Schauser, almost. All right, okay. So maybe I even mispronounced it. But he signed with the Boston Bruins. Signed with Boston. So he is now in the Eastern Conference still like us. He's in the, I guess, the other division, though, because I'm pretty sure we're in the Metro, right? So here is Mr. Albatozer. Signed a 3-year deal at 6.5. Good for him. That's a decent contract. He could be still a player we bring back at some point in 3 years, but $6.5 million, that's a nice little upgrade for him in the contract department, because I think when we gave him his contracts, he was always getting under $3 million. So good for him. He's probably going to be one of the better defenders in Boston. So good on him. Let's take a look at where Purrington signed as well, which I guess he would have been on that list that we just looked at. So we could just go back to best defenders in the league. Easier than that. So if we sort by overall, where is Mr. Purrington? Is he still a free agent or is he not a high overall? He's not a high overall. He's only a 90. He signed in Philadelphia now. God damn. All right. So Purrington has gone from the Islanders to the Panthers to Florida, and he's only 26. How much money is this guy getting paid? Wow. A 7-year deal at 15.755. So congrats to him on securing the bag after only putting up 37 points last year. That makes me really worried on how much Paco is going to cost us when his contract ends. Like, his contract ends in the next 3 seasons after this. He's making 10.5 right now. He's going to be a $20 million defenseman, I think. But I really need to hold on to him his entire career. So we all have to do that. But that's the first thing. Next thing we want to take a look at is our new guy in Powell and what his face looks like for the thumbnail. So obviously we're going to do that. Wow, Paco actually got his X Factor up to an Elite X Factor or All-Star X Factor in tape to tape. So shout out to Paco for getting better and better every year. But what does Mr. Rylan Powell look like? What does he look like? Does he have a cool face to join the team? Let's see what he looks like. He looks basic. I think I use this face usually for like Pascal Dupuis or something like that. But yeah, no beard even. But he will join the team, Mr. Rylan Powell. Let me get a good screenshot of his face so I can use him in the thumbnail. Perfect. All right, so that is the new face on the team. I don't think there's any other new faces that we need to worry about yet, so won't worry on that. The final thing we got to take a look at is this year's draft class. Obviously, it doesn't matter too much because we are going to be probably a playoff team, but I very, very want to much know if this draft class is going to have players that we could actually pick from that are good. So, is there going to be anything interesting? The answer to that for 2037 draft is yes. If we somehow fall off a cliff, Dave Baldwin is the best. He's from Hungary. He's a Dave. It's Hungry Dave. Dave Antonio was basically, because I think Dave Antonio is from Hungary too, right? But Dave Baldwin looks pretty solid. He's going to probably be an elite player, but I don't think we're going to have a chance to draft him, unfortunately, just because we are likely going to be really good. But let's look through the rest of these leagues here. So start off with Germany. The best is a first round guy that's supposed to go 15th overall in Leo Bush. He's probably going to be decent, at least, maybe top 6 forward. There's a couple other dudes too from Germany. So Germany might have some okay players this year. Nothing crazy, obviously, that we know yet. Then we move to Switzerland. Late first rounder, right winger Christopher Grellinger, 30th overall. And also Ray, who's supposed to go second round, and Sereda. So there might be some decent players from Switzerland this year. They're all supposed to go within the first 3 rounds. Czech Extraliga, there's Baldwin, of course. We'll pin him just because. There's Janicki, there's another Kuda, and there's also There's also Gruel, who we saw last year. He's apparently still supposed to go really high this year. Kuba. Oh, it's Philip Kuba. Philip Kuba, the right winger. That's kind of strange. He does have the height like Philip Kuba, but he's a forward, this one. Evenons will pin you since you're supposed to get drafted. There seems like there's going to be some options this year. Andrei Kanko. All right, from Czech Republic. Nobody else is supposed to actually get picked. The SHL, there is some good Danish players. One that's supposed to go 8th overall in Jimmy Sloan. And also a 29th one in Lincoln Stagen. There's also Hoyle at 76. There's Martin at 134. There's a forward with the name Goalie. All right, love to see that. Another Fernandez Henry. All right, and there's Barney from Poland, and La Barbara. Everybody else is not supposed to get drafted, I think. Finland has a Polish player by the name of O'Reilly, late first rounder. There's also Mahalik as a second rounder. So I definitely think there's more options in this class so far from what I'm seeing, at least early on, which is good. Because if we draft late in the first round, we should at least have an option available to us that doesn't feel like a colossal reach. So I like that. Let's make sure we have all those guys pinned that are supposed to get picked. And Allsvenskan won't have anything. In Russia, there is no Polish players, it looks like. No, I don't think so. Interesting. Okay. And finally, rest of the world. Anybody from rest of the world? No. We still have not found a rest of the world player, but that's all right. That's all right. I think there's going to be a decent chance we get some decent players in this class as well. So very excited for the start of the year. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Europe United Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will simulate through the 2036-37 season. This team should be a playoff team again this year, unless there's some major injuries. But I'm expecting it to be a good year for this team. And then I'm excited to see, obviously, as well, how far our team gets and what this draft class actually looks like fully on paper. We know the names, but we don't know the potentials yet. So hopefully there's some good players here still that we can continue building up the depth of our prospect pool. So that way, if we make the playoffs, we can keep on making the playoffs for a long time until the series is ending. So listen down below, and I'll see you guys next time.